love my kids to death, and they're my life. They're actually, I would say, that my purpose behind what I do every day.
A lot of us should be more intentional about figuring that stuff out and what gives us that joy, because it's a privilege that not everybody has. Not everybody is blessed enough to be able to work or do the things that make them happy.
Was fortunate enough to have some good mentors around me that taught me a lot of the day-to-days on projects and, behind the scenes when it comes to finances and such.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the AbadAss Life channel. For those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Andres Abad. I'm your host. And this channel is all about bringing you people who are experts, who are becoming experts on their field, to give you the tips, tricks, and hacks that you need to start crafting your own badass life, whatever that looks like to you. Today, we have a great episode because with us, we have a good friend of mine. He's not only a great entrepreneur, but he's a great dad, husband, and he's overcome plenty of obstacles. So he's going to be sharing some of that with us today. Jonathan Oakes, thanks for being here today, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. We've had a few conversations that actually have been pretty inspiring to me, right? Like, we don't know each other for like very, very long, but in the short time that we've been spending together, like, I've considered you a friend, and I think you have a lot of like good insights and a lot of good things to share to people, and things that, they can benefit from, because we're all in this journey together. Some of us are a little bit back here. Some people can be a little further along the journey. But we all have those things that are unique to us that other people can benefit from. So just for the audience to know a little bit more about you, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Who's Jonathan? How did you end up in this industry? What do you do? And all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I'm 38 years old. I was born and raised here in Ocala, Florida. I'm a husband to my wife, Samantha. I have 3 children, 15, 13, and 11. I love my kids to death, and they're my life. They're actually, I would say, that my purpose behind what I do every day. As far as my career and how I ended up where I am, I kind of feel like this career chose me, or this industry chose me. My grandfather and my family have been in the business since the 50s. Didn't really do much business, but they were amazing contractors, remodelers. There's a lot of homes around this area that they have touched, and their mark has been left on. But for me, I never worked with my family. I worked a lot with my dad. My dad was a pretty talented man, could do a lot of different things, and was always getting into some project or something. So me and him were always working together on the weekends or after school and stuff, whether it was, tearing down motors and rebuilding them, or, repainting the outside of the car, or, like he had a little side hustle where he would fix and repair boats. So we would tear boats all the way down to the hull and expose the stringers and replace rotten stringers on the inside and reglass all those in, and then redo the decks and put them back together, fix rotten transoms and stuff. So I got to do a lot of that. And then, anything that needed to be fixed on the house, my dad always did it himself. We never hired anybody. We just, if it was broken, we figured it out and we took care of it. So I was blessed, I think. Actually, I don't think I know. I was pretty well blessed with my hands. So never really had a challenge with being able to fix or repair or learn a new trade or a skill. If there's something that involves a house or anything of that nature, I pretty well can do it. I've either find a video or find a book or something, and I can pick up that pretty well. So when I was in high school, I actually was dating a girl that lived across the street from me, and her family were in the business. Mom was a real estate agent, and dad dad was actually a chiropractor, but her brother was a contractor and a real estate broker. And I got to working with them for a little while. And I was fortunate enough they allowed me to do a lot of things, which kind of jump started me into construction.
It gave you all the skills that you needed to start learning the trade, right?
I wouldn't say it gave me the skills, but just gave me the opportunities to get the skills. They, entrusted me with a lot. At 18, I was, superintendent spec houses, with zero knowledge of it. He, helped me a lot, but he didn't really know either. We both were kind of learning together. And I just wasn't afraid to ask people questions or, go up to a subcontractor that was doing the plumbing and saying, hey man, how does, this
How does it work? Yeah.
Fortunate enough, we had some really good trades and some really good companies that were working for us. So they were, forthcoming with information, and they gave me the correct information instead of the wrong ones. But as my career just kind of progressed, I worked for a lot of different people, doing a lot of different things. Did that for a while, worked with them, building houses and doing flips and few remodels, but they were remodels that were self-funded. Everything that they did, my ex-girlfriend's family, everything they did was self-funded. They, did their own spec homes. They, bought their own houses and flipped them. And I was involved with all of that. But the economy took a turn in 2007, 2008. And I ended up having to go to a different route. Worked for a window and door company, installing windows and doors for a while. Worked for a hospital, cleaning floors. Worked for a commercial glass company, doing commercial glass. And then ended up working for a very well-known high-end contractor, Fabian Dinkins Construction. I got an opportunity to work for them. And that's really where my career kind of jump-started to where I am now. I got to see the inner workings of a really good business, and was fortunate enough to have some good mentors around me that taught me a lot of the day-to-days on projects and, behind the scenes when it comes to finances and such. I had Chap Dinkins was probably one of my first mentors that taught me a lot, and started me on my path of coming to find Christ. He lived his life and still does live his life with Christ first, and putting Christ and living your life that way is just a foundation, that really steers the boat in the right direction. But it's led me to here. I've worked for a lot of different people, did a lot of different things, but ended up where I am.
Two things that really resonated with me, or one is that you growing up around your dad and doing all those things with your dad, is you are fortunate enough and blessed enough to be able to be doing something that I'm guessing it reminds you every day of those core memories, right? And it's probably you enjoy doing this because of that. Part of the reason is I've noticed when I do certain things that remind me of some of those core memories, it just brings a different level of joy, right? And I say a lot of us should be more intentional about figuring that stuff out and what gives us that joy, because it's a privilege that not everybody has. Not everybody is blessed enough to be able to work or do the things that makes them happy or gives them that joy, right? And I think that's really, really important in order to be able to craft your own badass life if you want to be enjoying every day of your life, because the way I look at things is joy is a completely different thing than happiness, right? Happiness, the way I look at it, it's an emotional response. If you achieve the one thing that you're looking for, you'll be happy. If not, you won't. But joy, on the other hand, it's the result or the emotion that you get from doing what you're fashioned to do, right?
Yeah.
and fulfill your purpose. And that seems exactly like what you're doing now. And the second thing that struck me the most in you saying that one of your mentors, you know, showed you the way through Christ as well. And it's not only showing you, okay, how to do this on the business, but how do you live your life in a way that is going to be very impactful, in a way that it's, going to like overall help you. And, I think like having mentors is like the single most important thing in anything, like whether it's your business, your personal life, anything that you want to achieve. It's just so smart to go to somebody that has already done it, right?
Oh yeah.
And try to get their insight, their suggestions, all that stuff. That's basically what we're doing here.
Yeah, I mean, trying to find somebody that is in the same field as you, that's forthcoming with information, is actually more prevalent than people understand. There's so many people out there that want to help. They're just not out there flaunting it,
Yeah.
They're not out there saying, hey, come find me, I'll tell you everything I know, But there are a lot of men that are in whatever industry, whatever field that you're trying to pursue, that are more than willing to sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk to you about their struggles, their hardships. That's me. I mean, I have overcome and have been put through so many things because I've tried to figure it out on my own instead of just having that conversation or going to somebody and just, wearing my heart on my sleeve and just telling everything. Hey, I'm having a struggle with whatever it may be, and listening to somebody, finding another person in my industry that has achieved where I want to go, going to that person and then talking to them, saying, hey, do you have the time to talk? Most of them are pretty willing to do that. And I've been blessed to have a few people, that one in particular that is my best friend now, that he guides me and directs me all the time. I call him we talk every day, but I don't call him every day about advice. We talk every day about, family, faith, fun stuff. But for the most part, we definitely do hit a lot on all of our struggles and where we're, having issues at, and just our conversations back and forth. We, help each other. He's helped me more than I've helped him, I think. But, that's just my side of the story.
Yeah, he might have a lot of things that, you don't know how much it helped him by just, being a sounding board for him or talking about ideas and things. We always, and this is what we were talking about, like, backstage, just between you and I, is that a lot of people that demand a lot from themselves are high achievers, are, their own worst critics. And like we always think that, this is not perfect, or this is not where it's supposed to be. But all of that is part of the journey, right? All of that is like the building blocks that are helping you develop what you need to get there, right? And I think that's like really important to just lean into instead of like shy away from it, because if you don't acquire all of the scars that you need to have to learn some of the things, it's going to be harder to get there, right? And you can actually avoid some of the pain points by having like the right mentors or by learning from other people's experience. But most of us don't do that at first. I think you have to get to a level of awareness to say like, okay, yes, I'm gonna do it that way.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us are, we tend to be stubborn.
Right. We're hard-headed. I mean, I think that is a really good point. When I left a local contractor and started my own business, I was just gung ho and wanted to get after it and get anything. I was very trustworthy of a lot of people, which there's nothing wrong with that, but you should have checks and balances in place for sure. So, when I first started my own business, I was really stubborn, didn't do a lot, didn't listen to a lot of people. and just kind of paved my own way. Didn't start asking, questions, and was just like, I've got this figured out and I've got it handled. We actually did pretty well our first few years in business, and we've done very well every year. But there's a lot of things that have caused me a lot of heartache, all because I was stubborn and I didn't, reach out for advice, didn't listen to somebody else. Like, oh, it's my way. I even remember saying to somebody a few years ago, I don't understand how anybody goes out of business. It doesn't make any sense to me. All you got to do is just do what you're supposed to do. And I've been, I wouldn't say that I've been close to losing my business, but I have gone through a lot of pain points that I thought that I never would have to deal with those things. I was very blessed my first few years in business when we started, not Bailey, but Southern Home Services. And, that process has, I almost think it's necessary for a lot of people. I do think that it could be easier, but if it was easier for me, I don't think that I would have learned the things that I've learned, and I wouldn't have those checks and that understanding that I have now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's like almost a catch-22, because like what happens is like when you do everything as you're told and everything goes well, right? You don't build that resilience that you need to have when things are going sideways. Because
exactly,
I don't remember if this was like a movie or a podcast or wherever I heard it, but it was about performing when things are going badly, right? It's like, what is your reaction? What is your attitude when things are going bad? Because it's really easy to have like a yay high attitude when things are going great and we have no challenges or nothing that like you have to overcome, right? But on the other hand, it's a lot tougher to maintain a positive attitude, to try to like not drown in the problem when you are having those challenges. And so like I think there's got to be some kind of balance, because just because you have the right mentor, it doesn't mean that you're going to have it all figured out, or because they tell you exactly what worked for them. Sometimes it might not work for you. So like you still have to put in like your twist to certain things, the way you do things, and you still have to like have that mentality that nothing's ever always going to be like sunshines and rainbows, right? Like you will have struggles, you will have hardships, challenges that you will have to overcome, and it's just a matter of like getting over those humps or whatever you want to call them, because a lot of the times like the problem is not necessarily the biggest problem. Is like how we react to the problem is what becomes the biggest problem, right? And so like by being hard-headed and like going in head first into some of these issues, is like we create more of those calluses that we need. We're just doing it the hard way. And I've done that myself in a handful of ways. I wish I could say that it was just like maybe once that I didn't listen, I did it my way. It's been multiple times. But it's sometimes people learn in different ways.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't think that I would have had the knowledge I had right now if it wasn't for all of the processes that I've gone through. Mm-hmm. I'm a different man than who I was when I started my first company. When I took over this, and it was just out of wanting to continue my family's name on. My family has been in this business since the 50s. My grandfather started this company. It was a different name back then. It was called Bailey Builders. And then my uncle, whenever he took it over in the late 80s, early 90s, I can't remember exactly when, but in 2001, they incorporated and turned it over to Bailey Building and Construction. And he is an amazing contractor, a fantastic carpenter, does some beautiful work and has done beautiful work. And when we and him started working together, it was just, hey, let's do stuff together. I was kind of a sub to contractors. I didn't have my license, and I wasn't, doing things that merited a permit or merited a license. But then I started getting more work and more opportunities. And I saw an opportunity to partner with my uncle and, allow him to pull the permits, which I ended up doing all the paperwork and stuff still, but, his license and his name was the backbone of it all. Without him, I wouldn't have been able to do the work. So that kind of thrusted us to where we are today. I wanted more for me and for my family, and I wanted to leave. I still want, I have not made my mark, but I want to make my mark in this community. I want to, be a shining light for contractors. There's so many negatives that usually circles around construction. And it's so much different than a lot of people think it is. It is a very tough industry. It's hard to be successful in it. It's very easy to get sideways, and to, get into bad spots financially, with schedules. And I mean, just across the board, it can really, if you're not careful, you can do some damage.
What is like the single best piece of advice that you think you've gotten from like a mentor in like industry related? Because I mean, what you've done, I think, is like remarkable. You've taken a company to multiple like 7 figures in revenue, and it's not just about the revenue, but it's like your vision and what you want to create with that company, the impact that, and I think that's been showing more and more the more you like, pour your heart and soul into this company. But is there anything that you think it was like either like one piece of advice that like really changed things for you, or if there was any like aha moment where it was like, okay, this is how we're gonna do this?
So I wouldn't say that like there was a one, sentence or a conversation that I walked away from that I was like, I got to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
It was later of going through all of the things that, whatever struggle it was, of hearing those mentors after I've gone through those and I've corrected it, being like, oh man, if I would have just listened to that guy,
Yeah.
So as far as the business, it's really learning more about business. Doing the construction part is easy if you have a good crew and you know what you're doing, but the business side of it is where I fell short. I'm very good at doing anything. I can build anything, but putting together a team and having a business that you don't have to, be not in charge of, but more or less it sets the ground rules for everybody that you bring onto your company. That's where I fell short. And that's where, hearing from other people, that grow slow, that scale slow, that put in all of these things in place, I didn't have that. I literally would just hire people and, I like you, you're cool, you can do some stuff. Yep. All right. Well, whatever you don't know, I'll teach you and we'll figure it out and let's go have fun together. And that's how I looked at this business is, some friends that we, going to go work on someone's house and get paid to do. Because this is what I love. I love construction work. I get so much fulfillment out of going to somebody's house and they have whatever the problem is or whatever idea or whatever creative thing that they want to produce or create. I love that challenge of pulling it out of their mind, putting it on a piece of paper and then making it real life.
Just bringing it back, bringing it to life. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, it is so much fun for me. I get so much fulfillment out of that. So if I would have taken some advice from some of the people and some of these mentors that I've, been around, and put in the proper, back office things whenever I'm hiring people or, bringing somebody on or just in the way we handle everything day to day. And even with our customers, like I didn't have a contract until this year. Like I didn't think it was necessary. I've heard from so many people, you got to have a contract, I'm like, I don't want to live my life like that. Like, I'm not living my life
The
signing
piece of paper.
documents. You know, my word is my bond. Well, my word may be my bond, but there's other people in this life that their word's not their bond. And I have learned that. I've learned that the hard way, and it's cost me a lot of money, and you know, and a little bit of you know, egg on my face. You know, I've had to walk into some people's offices and be like, "Hey, I can't pay you right now. I'm sorry. I will pay you, and I will get with you. I'm short right now." You know, and that has led me to the path I'm on right now, where we have contracts, we file liens and notice to owners, and all those things are, seem scary to people, but they're not. They're there for a reason. And there are just some people out there that will take advantage of you, point blank. And it's unfortunate, but, it's things that happen.
And we certainly live on like a day and age in which not, I would say, a vast majority of the population doesn't have those values and morals that, like, hey, if I just shake your hand, that's it. Like, I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. So you certainly have, especially in business, because I think like when it's just you, it's just so much easier. But you have to protect your business when you actually have a larger business now, because you are in charge of all those people, of all those families that work for you, that basically are entrusting you with their livelihood. So you can't be as trusting, with your clients, because if they don't pay you, you might not be able to pay them.
Yeah, I mean, there's, I never like that statement right there. These people are entrusting me with their livelihood. I never looked at it like that. Like I said, I was just like, we're a bunch of friends just going to go work together.
Yeah.
Until I started really getting a financial pinch, that's when I'm like, okay, I've got to change. Something's got to happen.
What do you think was the biggest, like, deterrent, or like the biggest drawback of that way of hiring, of that like hiring process, of the hiring mentality? Because I think like, so I can see both sides of the spectrum, where it's just like you're very like transactional. It's like, okay, you have to check all these boxes for you to come work here. You have to do this, and that. How I've done it in some of my businesses a lot of the times is like, I'm like very big on loyalty and honesty and all those core values that just resemble what I put out. I want to get back, right? And a lot of the times, you have to kind of like put aside certain things if you wanted to be able to check those boxes. And so like I've had to maybe train people for longer so that I know that they are fully capable of doing the task that they have to do in that position, because I knew that their character, that I was basically hiring on character, not on how proficient they were at the task for that position. So that gives me peace of mind that is like, okay, I'm hiring based on the character of this person, but now there's a bunch more work on my part, because I still have to train them for them to become proficient at what they have to do, right? As opposed to just looking at it from like a business perspective and be like, okay, if you're good at this, this, and this, you're in. You have to follow these, whether it's a code of ethics or whatever, but I don't really care anything outside of that, right? And I think like there's like pros and cons on both sides, but I think the key is finding like, that balance of like how to mesh both of them together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And that took me a while to learn, because I was on the latter side of it. I had none of the checks, balances. There was nothing there. And I think that was the biggest downfall, is that my expectations were completely different from the people that I were hiring. They didn't think the same as I did, and I didn't portray to them, or just lay out a clear guideline of, hey, this is what I expect on a day-to-day basis. And when you're sending people out, to people's houses,
Mm-hmm.
You need to have those. It's like super critical. You're responsible for this, and this. And if you don't do it, this, and this is going to happen. But I will say that hiring people that have, like how you said, their character and their integrity, who they are as a person, is a huge plus. In my industry, there's certain things that you've, got to be good at.
You have to know.
Yeah. Like if you don't know how to, cut a 45 on a piece of trim and install it on a door, like, we can teach you, but,
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be a pay, compensation difference for those things. And I have an employee right now that we've taught a lot. He started out not knowing hardly anything, and now here he is. He can install trim in houses and, do door casing, install cabinets, build cabinets. So we've taken him from not knowing anything to now he knows a skill. And it's not just a skill that you can take and make money with, but you can also save you money on your own personal home. He can work on his house now and not have to hire somebody to go fix it, which I think is a lot of value in that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, there's so much value on just being able to be self-sufficient in like multiple realms of things, right? Like my mother-in-law was actually not making fun of me, but she was very surprised because I was I'm not much of like the guy who's working with his hands. Not because I don't like it. It's just because I ended up following a path that, I have to be in front of a computer a lot more, or I have to do certain things in an office or whatnot. But me growing up, my cousin, he was in the Navy. His name is Marco. Shout out to him. I was like very, very close to him. And he used to build sheds. So he was, a very good carpenter. When he came back from the service, he would, it was his business. He would like build sheds for people and do a lot of other things, but mainly sheds. And so like I would, that's when I first moved to the States. It was 2008. So I came to like the recession and I was welcome me.
Yeah.
And so like I was
from the bottom, now we're here.
Yeah, it was tough, man. I mean, like back then I didn't have a business, but it was tougher to find like the right job for me or certain things because like everything was upside down kind of.
Yeah.
So but anyway, like I just following him around and being with him and helping him here and there because I spent a lot of time with him. Just I learned how to do a lot of that stuff. And like recently, Jen and I moved into like a new house, and I wanted to have like a garage for Ethan's like electric cars because our houses are smaller now, so we don't have like as much storage as we did before, and everything was on top of everything. And so like I was like, okay, I went to the barn and there was like a bunch of wood. I went in and like started cutting things, putting them together, and we have like this like 2-story like wooden garage for Ethan because he's got a bunch of like cars and he's got them for like birthdays and things. I'm a car guy, so like I bought him like a little R8 like battery car or whatever. And she came over one weekend. She was like, "Oh my God, this is beautiful! I had no idea that you know how to do this." Because my wife, she's very handy. Yeah. So a lot of the times, because I'm busy at work, I'm busy doing something else, whatever. She's the one that just goes in and tackles like small projects. And she's like, I had no idea you knew how to do any of this. Like, I normally just see Jen's doing or whatnot. And it's like, yeah, it's a skill that I have. It's just there. It's, doesn't come up very often because unfortunately I don't have the time but it's certainly valuable, to be able. And it's like, there's one thing that I will say is like working with your hands and creating things. There's
a sense of fulfillment.
Yeah.
Just straight joy.
Yes.
And it's really cool, man. You get done with building something and you can stand back and look at it and be like, wow, I did that. I mean, there does come a time where it's, doing it for a living, it becomes mundane.
Mm-hmm.
Because then the business side comes in. That definitely can muddy the waters because like right now, I mean, I would love to just go work on jobs, it would be so.
Just can't do it.
Yeah. I can't. I mean, I do from time to time, but because I want to, and out of the necessity needing to, like we were talking earlier, I'm going to go work on a job tomorrow. It is what it is, but I'm actually looking forward to it. Do I have a mountain of paperwork to do? Yeah. And I'll stay up late tonight and get up early in the morning and do it, but I'll actually enjoy my day working with my hands. A lot of guys will tell you, you need to be working on the business, not in the business. But, sometimes it's okay to grab your tools and show everybody you still know how to do it.
See, that's one of the things that, because of the internet and all the influencers or business people that are there, is they tell you certain things and people just take them face value or just try to follow them directly. And sometimes it's okay to just divert from that, because not everybody is at the stage in which you can actually just hand a lot of tasks to other people and delegate and go and try to do the things that are going to be a bigger lever for the business, right? Sometimes you just have to suck it up and get some of the things done. And having that ability to roll up your sleeves and say today I just have to go do this. Growing the business is going to have to wait until tomorrow. It's perfectly fine because, there's this one phrase that I always hear, and it's even though it's true, it's just almost cliche. It's like you have to stop trading your time for money. Right? If you want to have a business, you have to stop trading your time for money and, focusing on the things that, gives you the best ROI, basically, which is normally not doing the craft. Normally not doing, if you're a builder, you have to stop doing the framing, doing the building yourself and trying to pass down a lot of the knowledge to different crews so you can scale and all this stuff. The same thing in marketing. I cannot be the one doing the social media management, the reporting for the ads, all these different things. So I have to hire people that are experts of that. But sometimes you're just not there yet. So you cannot stop trading your time for money because we all have to survive. Everybody, I've heard people that, they're in the very beginning stage and they're like, oh, I'm not doing this because, I don't want to trade my time for money. And it's okay, cool. So what are you going to do now? How are you going to generate income? Yeah. You don't have an X person that you can delegate this to. So it's I think people just have to see what's working for them or what stage they're at and following the right advice for their stage in which they are right now.
Yeah, everybody's got to have a good foundation, and that's, like I said earlier about having a Christian background or, living your life, starting your day every single day with Christ. That's the foundation. The rest of it kind of fills itself in. When you have a business, it doesn't mean how you just said, you can't just jump into it and think that it's just automatically all going to happen all by itself. You have to be the catalyst behind everything that happens. If you want change, you've got to be the catalyst behind the change. If you want growth, you've got to be the catalyst behind the growth. It's not just going to organically happen. Eventually you find people that come into your business that me personally, I feel like God handpicks and selects this and navigates your life in situations to where you get interactions with people that come to work with you that have value, that have skills, that, whatever, trade or field that they're in, you meet them and you bring them on, but they're great people. And eventually you can not worry about what they're doing every day. I've got an estimator, right? His name's Steven Sims, great guy, love him to death. He was actually working for a mentor of mine, Chap Dinkins. And I was remodeling Steven's house. That's how we not met, but that's where we
connected a little bit more. Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't doing the work on his house. That was a time where I was the guy that did all the estimates and went and looked at all the work, managed all the projects, ordered all the materials, scheduled all the subs. I did all that myself. Sometimes I would do work, but for the most part I didn't. And I would just use subcontractors for everything. I had a few subs that, that were kind of multi-handed, could do a bunch of different things. And I used, them as a resource, and we would do all kinds of stuff. And I would, even some of the trades that didn't really have the skills, I would be there with them and just teach them, coach them to how to get on their way. Well, we did a great, obviously we did a great job on his house, and it ended up beautiful. But throughout that process, I would stay and talk with him, and, he just wanted to change. So he decided to, come work with me. I was in no way, shape, or form ready to hire somebody like that. I thought I was, but looking back, there's no way I should have hired him. I just shouldn't have, because I just didn't have all the stuff in place. And I was honest with him, and I told him, I was like, man, I don't really know this whole business part of it, and I don't know where I'm going. I know I'm going somewhere, and I know that I want to take it somewhere, that's worth going, but I don't know what it looks like. So if you're willing to jump with me, let's jump. And he was, and he's, not just a great asset to the company. Now he is a dear friend and a brother. We've grown so close. Just over there. I mean, he's been with me now for almost 2 years, and I love that man to death. And he's somebody I don't have to worry about. He goes and does his job, and he creates policies, procedures. He puts things in place. He looks at certain situations and will help. And he's a catalyst for growth. Now I don't have to be that catalyst all the time. I've got somebody else that is advocating with me, which is such a beautiful thing.
It's priceless. Yeah. I think that I was reading, it was either I was reading it somewhere, or there was a video I watched. I think it might have been Dan Martell. And he was talking about how like smaller companies, or companies that are under like 30 employees, you should become, like you said, like a very dear friend with the people that are around you, with like your first 10 employees or your first 30 employees, however long it was, is because like being able to have that relationship with them, not just make it transactional where it's like, oh, you show up, you complete a task, and you're done, is much harder to have them to buy into the vision, and for them to be invested into helping you, move the bus forward on whatever the vision is for the company, if everything is like transactional, right? But if like you are invested into them as much as they're invested into you, on a friendship level, on a, like not necessarily just on the projects for the company, but in anything that they might need, how they're feeling, what's going on in their personal lives, and matching all those things up together, it definitely creates that bond that it solidifies, how much they care about like what they're doing.
Oh, it's so important, because if you don't care about the people that are working for you, they're not going to care about anything that you have. And you have those employees from sometimes. I mean, there's people that, I've hired that they don't care, and they don't care because it shows in everything that they do.
Yeah.
They may show up on time, but, they may not sweep up good, or they may leave something crooked or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's a few which I have a few now. I say a few. There's 8 of us, or I have 8 employees. There's 10 of us all together with me and my wife. But there's 8. We have 8 amazing people that they care. You can tell that they care. Do they make mistakes? Of course. We're human. Every one of us does. But you can tell when they make a mistake, they own it. They may not recognize they made a mistake. Sometimes it's me catching it. But after the conversation of whatever it may be, and, I'll pull them aside and say, hey, look, like this happened, we need to know.
They learn from it?
Oh, they learn from it. They're like, man, I'm sorry. And, they go take care of it, whatever the issue may be. It has been amazing. And like just this morning, we had a meeting, and we had some issues last week. And, I went to a job, and there was some stuff that was going on, and I had a customer complain. And I don't like that. I never dealt with that. When I was doing all the work myself, I had 100% satisfaction. Everybody was always happy because I controlled it. It was me doing the work, and I had no other variable in the equation. It was me and me only. So if I failed, I was there to fail, and I know that I failed. And I told the customer before there was even an opportunity to get upset with me. Now, I bet there's 70 to 80% of the work that goes on that I don't even put my eyes on. I can't, just because there's so much going on. And we have roughly 30 projects going right now. Wow. It is really hard for me to visit all of those every single week.
Yeah, of course.
And plus, deal with, finances and growth and, issues. So I went out to one project, saw there were some issues, had a conversation this morning with our whole team about it, and, just was honest with them. And I think that's the biggest thing with having people underneath you. And I don't mean underneath you like in that level, but you understand what
I mean.
Having employees or people that are following you as a leader, no matter whether you're a business owner or a leader of a department or, whatever it is. There's so many leaders in this world. If you're leading a group of people, you have to almost emulate or model what you're wanting out of them. If you're wanting them to be honest, well, you better be honest yourself. That's why, ever since me and you have met, I've told you I wear my heart on my sleeve. Yeah. I don't have any secrets. I'm not holding anything back. I am who I am. And my team sees that, and I hope, at least I see, they're changing too. They are accepting their faults and failures, and they're like, man, I'm sorry. I own that. I made that mistake. That's my fault. I will fix it. Now, if it continues, there's, that's where the checks and balances come into place. And it's like, all right, this is a business and we're here to make money. We can't be making these mistakes no more. But it is a beautiful thing to see people change and grow and, mold into a better individual.
Based on like all these experiences that you've gone through, in the journey of business ownership, in this particular industry, what would you say to people that are just now starting or that have aspirations to start, their own companies in like home improvement or being, general contractors and stuff? Like, is there anything that you would say like, these are like the don'ts or stay away from, so you don't have to go through some of the things that I went through?
I would say that I don't know. I don't think I have any don'ts. I have a lot of don'ts, but the do part would be to have a plan. Mm-hmm. Put a plan in place. Have some type of business structure. If you're wanting employees, if you're wanting to get to a level to where you're not in charge of the day-to-days every single day, it is so critical to have SOPs, the standard operating procedures that everybody follows by, to have a goal that the entire company, I keep saying catalyst, the business owner is usually the catalyst, but if you don't portray that to everybody that you're hiring on, then nobody understands. And then everybody just kind of does their own thing. And you have a bunch of people that are wandering around just doing what they want every single day, which is not successful, and it won't be. It'll be unorganized, it'll be messy, and that's when mistakes happen, and that's where you start failing. And I lived that. I did that. I didn't have any of that in place. Like I said, I was just hiring people. Hey, we're friends. And that's fine. We were friends, but I needed that structure off the side. And I didn't even have that myself. I wasn't disciplined in my own life. And until I became, which it really wasn't until recently that and I still, I think we all fall short in some way, shape, or form. But, having a true laid out plan, these things that, guardrails, bumpers, this happens. Okay. I need to, I don't want to go here. I need to get
back on track.
Yeah. Those things are super important,
Is there anything in particular that you use to measure, like in life and in business? For example, for me, it's like I have this little thing where is like the four pillars of just everything that I try to do, right? Which is health, wealth, relationships, and purpose, right? And each one of those has like their checks and balances. It's like, okay, maybe this month I haven't been to the gym. My health is a little bit, shaky because I've been focusing too much on work. And because I'm focusing too much on work, the health aspects of my life is not where I would want it to be, or even my relationships, right? And my relationships could be with, not just with like your significant other, but it could be relationships with your kids, with God Himself, like, all of those things. Is there anything that you use for work or your life in general like that?
Not like a,
Like a structured, like,
yeah, not really. I mean, there's a few things that I've always run back to that whenever I get into certain situations, I use, like one is the serenity prayer. If I carried around this business card that someone gave me that had a calendar on one side, and then on the other side it had a serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to understand the difference. That has been a huge help for me because I'm a fixer. I want to fix everything. There's some things I just can't fix. I can't control. It's in God's hands. And I know that's the other side, was me finding my faith, me finding Christ. I wasn't until I was, I think I was 36. It was October of 2023 that I just had it was a rough month for me. Outsider looking in, everything was good, but I was just going down a wrong path, and I was at my wit's end, and honestly just didn't want to be here no more. I have a beautiful family, a beautiful wife, have no reason to be upset or depressed, but I was there. And not to get too long of a story, but I found Christ, and living my life following Him every day has been the biggest change in my life. And that's been the only rock. He has been my only rock that puts me in check. Whenever I hit those bumpers, I go to the Bible. I look at scriptures. And then I would also say finding a good group of men, having a good group of men, because I've got an amazing wife. I mean, my wife is, she's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we've had our ups and downs, but I will be with that woman till the day I die. God put her in my life. If it wasn't for her, I'd probably be dead or in jail, being honest. Just made a lot of dumb mistakes over the years. But I know God put her in my life, so she's probably one of those four pillars that you're talking about. That serenity prayer is another pillar. A good group of men, and then
which we know you have as well.
Yeah.
So having that support system, man, it's so important, because we are not built to go through life alone, right?
No.
Isolation creates so many bad things that we probably don't even have enough time in this podcast to talk about. But that's how you break them in, through isolation. Like if you go like really look into in a lot of like the like jails and stuff, like to all these like really high ranking like criminals or whatnot, like the biggest punishment that they get is like being in isolation, being like separated from anything and everything and everybody in this world. Is like we are social creatures, and
100%.
we need to be part of something. And we were just talking about that, and me coming to your group. Well, at the end of it, we were discussing how like sometimes it doesn't matter how successful you are, how much money you make, how everything can seem that it's going well. Like you said, on the outside, you can have beautiful family, plenty of money, business booming, and sometimes it still feels like something's missing, right?
Yeah, that's where I was at, man. I mean, that was what you just said was it. That year was, I think, the year that I said, I don't know how anybody would ever go out of business.
Yeah.
And I mean, it could have been taken from me if I wouldn't have, changed, or if God wouldn't have came into my life. I could have lost it all. It having people around you and being vulnerable is the only way real, true growth happens in your life. You've got to be man enough to look at yourself in the mirror and say, you're messing up here. You've done this wrong. And it's okay that you have done it wrong. It's okay that you're feeling this way. All those things. It's okay. Go talk to somebody. Get help. It is so important. It is so important. Not only, the way I look at it now is, because I am on the other side of the coin per se. I know where I'm going when I die. I know what my purpose is every single day. My purpose isn't to just be a husband, a father, a business owner, a leader, all those things. First and foremost, my purpose is to live for Christ, and to make disciples, to go out, to be a fisher of men. That's what Jesus was a fisher of men. He, was a carpenter and all kinds of things, but he made disciples. And whenever he, died and was resurrected, he left men to spread his message, to spread his word, follow him, follow what he does. Your life will change. And for so long, I thought that being a Christian was this boring, unfulfilling life, because you couldn't go party, you couldn't drink, you couldn't go do all these things, you couldn't say these words, couldn't. It was so amazing that the minute that I accepted life in my Christ, the minute I accepted Christ into my life, how I didn't even look at those things as things that I wanted to do. Like, it is so hard for me to say a curse word. Like, yeah, sometimes it flips out of my mouth. I get mad and the old flesh me comes out and I say something. But it is like a conviction that has come over me. Like, I don't want to say it. I don't want to do whatever the bad thing that I used to do all the time. I used to love, drinking and having a good party. Now I'm like,
yeah. Yeah, like you can still have a good time without right? Like there's something, and me especially, like there's a lot of parts of my life that could certainly be questionable when it comes to like my relationship with God, right? And I think we've discussed some of this. Like, I grew up being very rebellious because I wasn't like Catholic schools and all the stuff, and I was a very curious kid, so I asked a lot of questions, and then like back then, I think it was just a little bit different. Like, people didn't react to questions or, especially in the Catholic, schools that I was in. It seems like they didn't want someone like me asking so many questions or like questioning like their ways or whatever.
Don't question my authority.
Right. And so like obviously it was like a tough time for me there. And so like that kind of like sparked this like rebelliousness as to like, a lot of like God and religion. Like, I separated like God and religion by as far as I could, because just reading up and like having some of those experiences, I was like very rebellious against religion. I was like, this, it's a way to, historically, it's been a way to manipulate the masses and do all these things. However, like, because of that, like, I think it's made my, relationship with God like very wobbly. And it didn't matter how like successful, how everything could be going great, and there's still some kind of void or some kind of like missing piece that did not allow me to feel like fully fulfilled.
Yeah, and I've felt like that for so long, and I would try to fill that void with, alcohol or a good time, or, going spending a bunch of money, going on all whatever.
Yeah.
Name
Oh, there's plenty of bad things to, yeah.
Yeah. And, now I've had a lot of troubles over the past 2 years. And I know that all of these things are molding me and morphing me into the man that God really needs me to be. Because I never would have done any of this if it wasn't for me following Christ. I never would have, like going back to business and tying this into business, I never would have set all of these things in place. I never would have, got policies and procedures. I never would have been super structured with my finances. I mean, I could tell you where every penny goes. I never would have been that man because I just lived life and I was blessed and I enjoyed every second of it. But it wasn't sustainable. It's not sustainable living that way. To me, the only sustainable, full, joyful living is finding Christ, starting your day with Him and letting that emulate and live out the rest of your life with it. And it will transcend to everything that you do, with your wife, with your spouse, with your children, with your family, with coworkers, customers, employees, whatever. It just changes. He changes your thought processes and the way you handle things. Instead of blowing up and getting mad, you're just like, okay, this sucks, but it's okay. It's going to be okay. I'm not going to die, and if I do, I know where I'm going, but, it's just a peace,
Yeah. There's certainly, even, for someone like me that, like I said, is like, I'm definitely a bit wobbly in that department. Just like the few weeks that, I've been like spending a little more time with you and your group and stuff, when you leave there is definitely a sense of peace that, it's hard to find with anything else. Like there's different types of peace, I would say. And so, like, for example, at work, we all have those moments where like everything could be a little bit chaotic and like yada yada yada. You have to run around, do all these things, and then like you figured out a way to not go through that as much anymore, and to like have the right SOPs, the right KPIs, and have like all the things that you need to kind of like streamline that and not have to live in that chaos anymore. That is peaceful, but it doesn't compare to the level of peace that we're talking about here on that side, right? Because there's levels to this stuff, I think. And for me, it's just like I was telling you, it feels like it's too much of a coincidence now. It's like everyone that I'm getting to know or that I'm getting close to has like, they're all like, men of faith. They're all people that have prioritized that in their lives, and it's completely changed their lives. So, little by little, like I'm stubborn also, but little by little, I'm making my way towards that. And man, like I'm telling you, it feels great. It feels better. You don't need a whole lot of the other things that made you feel good in other aspects, or some of those things that you were using to fill those voids, because it does really fulfill you in ways that
oh yeah,
probably haven't experienced before.
Well, what's really it's really awesome is you saying that. Starting a men's group when there's nobody to start it with, it's kind of intimidating. I was fortunate to, have my buddy Jeremiah, my brother, best friend, to have him as a mentor, as a Christian man to lead me, going to him and being like, hey man, I feel like God, wants me to start a men's group to help other men like me in our industry. Because you walk onto a construction site, man, it's just full of all kinds of. You think of the bad thing, it's there, And like when we started this conversation, I had said that one of the things that I want to do is to change the perception of the way construction work really is. We're a lot more refined and sophisticated than, people think we are. They, just because there's a lot of dirt and grime that goes along with it, they, think the worst of us. But there definitely is some, people that are there. But honestly, I think I see that as the most opportunity to help and to serve our community, is to be there for men that are in those dark situations, that live that life, and to be a model for them. Hey, you don't have to live this way. You can live this way and still do what we do every single day. And Jeremiah was that for me, because I was the guy on the construction site cussing and, doing whatever, not being a Christian man. And he was, there being a, just a strong-willed, sound-minded Christian man. And, we were on a job site together. It was in, I think, November or December of 2023. And we were standing in the Mooyah Burger now downtown. He was building the Mellow Mushroom, and I was there helping him, with some stuff there. And we were just talking off to the side, and I was telling him how I really felt like, the Lord put it on my heart for me to start a men's group with him. And there was a gentleman that walked up that, just started doing all the things, cussing, being down, negative Nelly, all the stuff. And when he walked away, Jeremiah looked at me and was like, we used to be like that. And I'm like, and those are the men that I want to help. I want to help him. Not saying that he's wrong in any way. Everybody has a choice to live their own life, but there's so much better way. Yeah. And, all the stuff I'm saying, there's nothing wrong with, having a drink. There's nothing wrong with, whatever, everybody has their own life and everybody has their own choices. I'm not trying to push anybody to do their own thing, but this has completely changed my life. And anybody that has seen me and known me, who I was before, and sees and knows me now, they can see the difference.
Just night and day.
Yeah. And then you saying this, how many men come to that group on a daily basis? On a weekly basis? There's roughly 12 to 13 men now.
Yeah.
That come. I think in the group, there's roughly 22, 23 of us. And it just started with me and Jeremiah. And it's slowly growing to a large, small group of men that just want better for their lives, and they are curious, how do we do that? Every single one of us falls short every day. And that's where we get grace from Christ. Repent, follow through with that. Makes me feel really good. And honestly, all the construction work that I've done, all the things that I've done, hearing you say that you leave there fulfilled gives me so much joy.
Yeah, man. It's so it's different. The word is different. I've been to all kinds of different groups. I've paid thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for masterminds with top tier entrepreneurs, very big names. And it doesn't compare to it. A lot of the things, I'm a very analytical person, and I think over the past few years, I've been trying to change some of those ways from being very analytical into finding more empathy and just approaching things in a more humane way. Because even though I try to consider myself a good leader, a good, whatever you want to call it, the head of our organization, and I tend to now be very understanding and not necessarily just worry about the problem at hand, but what could be causing it and why like, did it even happen and all this stuff. Start with the person first, not with the problem. Before, it wasn't, it wasn't always like that. So like, I was just very analytical, very like, as a matter of fact, this has to happen. And now through, the journey of like a bunch of therapy and a bunch of, things that, like my wife, I mean, if it wasn't for her, like, I'd probably been stuck in my old ways as well. So, shout out to Jen as well. She's amazing. And God, like, I mean, I've learned so many things being with her. Just, we've been together for 5-6 years now. And the same thing. Like, if people that have known me before her and after her will say like, oh my God, like, there's so much difference, from like just my character, like me as a man, and also as a business person, as a businessman. Like, I have been, I think, blessed enough with certain skills that I was able to, create certain businesses or just do sales, whatever that I did. I did well, and I had good businesses before I met her, but I like had not much to show for it because like all the air skills were not there. So it doesn't matter how successful you are, how much you're making, how like all these other things, if you don't have the other pieces to the puzzle, right?
Yeah.
And all throughout my 20s, I did just that. Like, I generate, like, poof, like everything's gone because of like poor decisions.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but getting back to what I was saying is like, leaving there is just me being so analytical. There's certain things that are being said that are just in my mind, and I'm just thinking now, and it just sparking that curiosity and sparking that like, like this is, it's just like a lot of things to think about that are giving me a different perspective and that are like definitely helping. And that's not, like, I could be stubborn, I could be like set on my ways on certain things, but the one thing that I am willing to be open about, and I'm willing to be open-minded and learn about like all kinds of different things, but that is the one thing that I the most open-minded for, because is one of the ones that I know that I'm very wobbly on that aspect. And so learning a lot about it and then just trying to solidify that relationship is definitely a priority for me, and has helped a lot. So
the relationship is where it's really at.
Yeah.
It's it's just taking the time. Yeah, that's, I think, is like the most important part of what you said is a relationship. It's finding a relationship with Christ. It's until you are intentional, like you are with your wife. You're intentional with your wife. But if you're intentional with Christ before you're intentional with anything else, all those other things will fall into place because you have that rock. That is your foundation. I don't know the scripture, but so I'm newer to this. But there's a scripture, I forget where it's at in the Bible, but it talks about how there was a great big flood, and there was a man that had a foundation of rock and a foundation of a house built out of straw, or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it said. But if there was a flood that came, the house that was made out of straw would crumble really easily, but the house that was made out of rock would stay. And that analogy, that those words are, the rock is Christ. He is your rock. If you base your whole life and start your life with that, everything else kind of falls into place. It doesn't mean that your life's going to be easy, but when those hard situations come, they are easier to overcome. It's the only thing that's ever done anything for me, man. I mean, my relationship with my wife, with my kids, seeing my entire family. We all go to the same church. We all have been, I don't think we all have been baptized, but we're all getting baptized. And it's just a beautiful thing to see every single one of us, changing our lives and putting Christ first. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I see. I definitely can see how it's just like so important and so like life changing. I think that's the word. It's life changing for sure. So yeah, you'll definitely expect to see me there.
I'm glad, man.
Consistently. But yeah, man, like just to kind of like wrap it up, like normally I like to ask for like a quote, if there's like any favorite quote that you have or any favorite saying that anybody that comes to the podcast has. Don't feel pressured to it if there's none, but if there's one, like, you want to share with us?
Yeah, it's a scripture. I can't remember exactly the. I know it's 2 Timothy. I think it's verse 7 and 8. I always forget it, but I've hanging on most of my emails that I send. It's in my signature, and it's one thing that one words that have resonated with me and stays with me, kind of like the Serenity Prayer did. But it's so like I was saying earlier, that was Serenity Prayer that helped me a lot. But this scripture has stuck with me. I read it not too long ago, and it's 2 Timothy verse 7 and 8, I believe. And it's that God did not give us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline. And that is those words, power, love, and self-discipline. I mean, we all know that if you lack discipline, you're not going to achieve anything, because it takes consistent discipline to overcome any kind of challenge. And if you don't have love in your heart, you're just going to go at everything with anger. You're going to handle situations and certain situations poorly or not well at all. And power, that doesn't mean that you have to, be over top of somebody, but just with strength, overcome any challenges, that no matter what life throws at you, that, you've got that.
And come on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very powerful, man. Thanks for sharing.
Welcome.
So if anybody wants to get a hold of you, want to reach out, like, where can they find you?
So we're on Facebook, not on Instagram, but we're on Facebook. We do have a website, baileybuilding.us. They can, call our office. Office numbers 352-351-2314. They can find me on Facebook personally, Jonathan Oakes. If you want to call me personally, my personal cell phone number is 352-817-8948.
Wow. Is there, do you guys serve like Central Florida, or is there any particular areas that you serve?
We try to stay within an hour of our home base, which is, here in Northeast Ocala. So we tend to stay more on the west side of Marion County.
Okay.
But we go all over Marion County, Citrus County, some Sumter, some Alachua. Don't really go to the east very much. Past the forest, we don't really go. We'll go out into the forest, but I would say more northwest.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time, man. I really appreciate you coming in, chopping it up with us, talking shop, and just giving people out there like some of those words of hope, like knowing that they're not alone. There's there's gonna be challenges, there's gonna be constraints that they're gonna have to go through, but there is reward on the other side of that for your industry and every other, right?
Yeah.
So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, man. Yeah, if anybody ever wants to hear all of my faults and failures, I would gladly tell them, don't do these.
You guys heard him. If you want to, talk to him directly, you have the information if you want to reach out. But until then, continue building your own badass life, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.